All right, so speedrun.com. I'm gonna not edit as much of this one as I did the previous one. The last rant I did, a lot of people were complaining that I was, with the editing that I put in between pauses, I was talking too fast. So I'm gonna try not to do as much editing or as heavy of editing. For a little bit of context of what's going on right now with speedrun.com or what happened a while back. If you've been in my channel recently or watched one of my recent YouTube videos, chances are you've heard me talk about this or mention it. A lot of people ask me why I no longer submit my speedruns to speedrun.com. The reason being is, those of you guys who aren't caught up on all the social media crap that's going on, congratulations, you've avoided yet another piece of toxicity in your life. People have been coming forward that certain streamers, certain speedrunners were abusive, or information ends up coming out that a speedrunner either, assaulted someone physically, or, mentally abused someone, or sexually abused someone. Whatever happens, or they said something that was very mean or offensive about certain groups, and because of that, they remove their times from speedrun.com. I'll say this again. Someone either says or does something bad, and as a direct result, they remove their times from speedrun.com. That's essentially what was happening. All right, that's the basis of what you need to know about what has been going on. Now, I personally, the only reason I submit to speedrun.com is for a historical tracking of my times. I don't care about other people's times. I don't care about comparing my times to other people. Personally, I only submit my times so that I can have a historical reference of all of my times of my speedruns. Hell, back when I first started submitting to speedrun.com, my time was the only one on there. So it doesn't matter. I don't want the shiny little trophy next to my name with you got world record in a category that only 2 other people speedrun. Whoop-de-doo. I don't care. I've never cared about stuff like that. That being said, what has happened now, fast forward, is certain communities, not the Breath of the Wild community, but certain other speedrun communities have used this situation that has been going on and have taken it a step further, and basically anyone that the mods don't like, or they get bullied by, or say something that they don't agree with, they remove their times. Now, I do want to say this, just to get it out of the way, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, and I don't care. It's the whole reason I don't submit in the first place. My vision of what speedrun.com was supposed to be was just a historical tracking of the speedruns. Regardless if someone does something horrible, they still also did that run. The dude could have drop kicked a baby. If he got a 425 in Banjo-Kazooie any percent, he got a 425 in Banjo-Kazooie any percent. There's no denying that. We're not giving these people a platform. We're not giving them a place to speak, because 90% of the communities are in forums, Reddits, and Discord. None of the actual forums or places to speak or platforms that people have are on speedrun.com for any speedrun community. I'm in quite a few of them, from Mario to Zelda to Horizon Zero Dawn to Red Dead Redemption, to all these different speedrun communities. None of them really use speedrun.com for anything other than for tracking times and having a leaderboard. That's it. That's pretty much it. Besides that, it has a link to a couple resources to help you speedrun, and a link to the Discord, where the actual meat and cheese of the community takes place. If someone is accused of something like that, or someone is found guilty of saying something offensive, racist, doing something that they shouldn't do, that is against the law, or that is just outright mean, then I agree that they should not have a platform on places that actually give them a platform, like the Discord, like the subreddits, those sort of things. Removing their times from speedrun.com, in my opinion, doesn't solve anything. All it does, in my opinion, is invalidates speedrun.com for what it's supposed to be. Because speedrun.com has nothing to do with any of those things, in my opinion. All it does is track the historical records of times for runs and shows how you stack up on a leaderboard versus other people. So if you were to remove someone's time because of something they said or because of something they did, all you're doing is, let's be real, you're not hurting them. They don't care. All you're doing is invalidating the leaderboard. You're making it inaccurate. You're not making any, people who are on the receiving end of whether it be the mean words or the abuse. Take it from me as a child of abuse. Seeing the person who abused you hurt doesn't help you heal at all. Seeing them deplatformed and shamed and thrown in prison, it doesn't help you. It doesn't. It doesn't help you in the slightest. It doesn't help you heal. It doesn't help you cope. It doesn't help you reason. And it doesn't help you move on. So taking their names off of the list of speedruns, off of the leaderboards and off of the records, all that really does, in my opinion, is invalidates the leaderboard that is connected to the community that you love. All it does is discredit the leaderboard from being accurate. And now that we've got that out of the way, let me go back to the reason why I don't submit my runs to speedrun.com. The reason why I no longer submit my runs to speedrun.com is because while some communities are doing that, other communities are taking it a step further, and they are essentially canceling people who don't agree with their point of view. Hell, I saw a speedrunner almost get their times removed because they disagreed with someone else getting their times removed. Let me say that again. Someone said something or did something bad. I'm not going to name names or even name the community that it happened in. Someone said something that was bad, and they got their times removed. Another runner said, hey, I don't agree with you removing their times just because they said this. And the community responded with, or rather the mods of that community responded with, oh, well, why don't we remove your times too? And that runner had to issue a public apology for how they thought about how other people responded to what someone said so that he didn't get his times removed. Like, how mind-boggling is that? That you can get canceled off of speedrun.com because of having an opinion on how speedrun.com operates. And it's because of that, as you guys already know, I'm a very opinionated person. I say what I think. Sometimes those things are mean to people. When I'm told that those things are mean to someone and are offensive to someone, I apologize to that person. I've had to issue a lot of apologies, oftentimes because I run my mouth without thinking. That being said, that's one of the main reasons why I no longer submit my times to speedrun.com, because I don't like the idea of being blackmailed. I don't like the idea of someone saying, hey, you have to like me. Hey, you have to think the way I do, or I'm going to remove your times from speedrun.com. So I decided I'm just going to help you and no longer submit. Now, I said this before, I'll say it again. This is not the Breath of the Wild speedrunning community. The mods in this Breath of the Wild speedrunning community have dealt with this very well. There are some things that they do that I don't agree with, but that's fine. That's part of being human, is not agreeing with everything that other people do. That's what makes us unique. But they have done a very good job at dealing with these sort of situations as they've come up. But me having been in the Breath of the Wild speedrunning community for 4 years now, they haven't always been that way. Every community goes through its growing pains and every community has its phases. So I recognize that even though the Breath of the Wild speedrunning community mods and staff are amazing right now, there could come a time in the future where they aren't. I recognize that something can change, things can happen. And so because of that, I've decided, you know what? I'm going to just take a step back from all of the drama. It'll be one of the few pieces of drama that I don't really engage in. I'm not missing out on anything because, again, I didn't really care about submitting my times for, like showing off or being the fastest or being on a shiny leaderboard. I just wanted to have historical times up. And so, and I can just do that like on my own on my PC. It's not that big a deal. It was just more convenient on speedrun.com. I don't care about my runs getting verified because, let's be real, you can jump. Every single one of my runs is live streamed. You can jump into my live stream and you can see for yourself that I'm not cheating. They're then posted on YouTube, which is literally all I do as far as verification purposes. 90% of people, they upload their video to YouTube and then they use that to submit. So if anyone has a question about whether or not my runs are legit, they can just look at my YouTube runs and verify them themselves. So it's not a big deal for me that I'm no longer submitting my runs to speedrun.com. Do a lot of people come into my chat and ask, oh, well, I can't find your time, or I see you're in second place? Yeah, but you just correct them. Be like, oh, yeah, no, I have this time. You can go to my YouTube and see it. This is the time that I have. Like, I'm okay with telling people, well, no, actually, my time is this. But so-and-so's run who shows up as world record is a good run. Like, they all have really good runs. So it's one of those things where I would rather distance myself from all the drama rather than run the risk of having to be involved in it. People ask me constantly, oh, well, then Specs, if someone were to create a completely different website that was exactly what you wanted, that was just speedrun records, that regardless of who submitted the run, if it was verified legit, then would you go back to submitting your runs to it? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. If speedrun.com goes back to that, then I will absolutely resume submitting my runs. Because ultimately, the only reason, in my opinion, you should be removing times from speedrun.com is if the run is proven fake. If someone cheated or if someone faked their run, then yes, absolutely remove their time. Because then that is an inaccurate representation of the run. Sorry, I just ate some tamales, and so I'm having like some indigestion going on here. But that is an inaccurate representation of the speed run, and thus the time should be removed. Like, I agree with that 100%. If the person drop kicked a baby or called someone fat or said something horrific and mean about a group that is already having to deal with total and absolute bullshit in their life, then that makes them a horrible person. And they should be removed from any speaking platform in the speedrunning community. None of which usually is speedrun.com. Ban them from the Discord, ban them from the subreddits, ban them from any of the places where they can be given a voice. But you can't change the fact that they got a specific time in that speedrun. And removing that isn't going to help you. Now, removing their voice from the community will help someone heal. Separating yourself from your abuser is essential. But removing their name from a leaderboard, you're going to interact with them or at least see their name in many places. Like, there are people who have done things to me in my past that I still have to engage with them from time to time. It happens. Removing their names, defaming them, that sort of stuff, it doesn't help you heal. I agree that justice should be served to these people, and if they don't deserve a platform or they're abusing a platform, then it should be removed. Absolutely. No question about that. That being said, I don't think that the solution is removing their names from a leaderboard whose sole purpose is to keep track of times for historical purposes. when doing so will ultimately completely invalidate the purpose of the leaderboards. It takes away the purpose of the leaderboards. Its sole purpose is, and trust me, I've been in communities and I've seen the aftermath. You nowadays, even, it's still a thing. You go into a speedrunner who's doing a run and you're like, oh, you have world record, and the runner has to have that talk like, well, speedrun.com actually says that I have world record, but in reality this other person still has world record. Even though their time was removed, they do still technically have the fastest time. Like the top runners themselves would prefer that the times stay accurate. You know, they themselves find it a little bit inaccurate. I'm trying to find the best way to describe it, but they find it where it's harder for them because they feel like they're being given something that they didn't actually earn. Like, imagine you working your ass off over and over and over and over and over again to get world record, if you do care about world record. And then after all your effort and after all this time, it was just given to you because someone else did something horrible. And so their time was removed from speedrun.com. Yes, you're being rewarded for not being a horrible person, but speedrun.com isn't a measure of who's a good person. It's a measure of who's fast. And as long as those times are accurate, you should probably keep it accurate to whose time is the fastest. Again, regardless of who that person is. And I can sympathize with the people who want to have those people's names removed, even just have the name stricken. And that, I guess, is a good compromise, is to just have the name stricken and have it be like a, what's the word you used? Anonymous on the name. But again, then you're going to have people asking, oh, well, who's anonymous? Why does the name say anonymous? It doesn't solve the problem. It only brings to light the problem. Because imagine this scenario. Scenario A, you leave the names as is. Guess how many people are going to ask and bring up, and how many times the conversation of the abuse is going to come up? Well, hardly ever. It's going to happen. The person's going to be deplatformed, but their name is going to stay on the leaderboards, and that'll be it. A year, 2 years, 3 years later, no one's going to ask about it. No one's going to remember it. The person who was affected will be able to move on. Then you have scenario B, where you remove their name from the leaderboard. You keep the time, but you strike out the name. Then what? Every single person who looks at that leaderboard is going to look at that anonymous, and guess what they're going to guess what they're going to ask in the streams of every person who runs that category? Hey, why is that name anonymous on the second place? Why is there an anonymous on the fourth place? For years and years and years and years, they're going to ask that. And for years and years and years, the conversation is going to come up. And the person who is affected is going to have to continuously face that, continuously address it. Everyone in the community, that's all they're going to be talking about. I go to the communities. I'm part and friends of the people who are in those communities. That's all they talk about. Every single stream, every single time a top runner of those communities streams, it's brought up at least once. So you're not solving the problem. You're just highlighting it. Like, now, I agree, you can't control what dumb people who go into chat, what dumb viewers say. But you can do things that will avoid giving them something to talk about. Like, the only reason they're saying something is because you did something about it, which didn't really even help the situation at all. Again, you're not removing a platform from them. You're only basically highlighting what they did by putting a big asterisk on what they did in the leaderboards. You're essentially putting an ad on the community saying, oh, by the way, we had this problem. Be sure to ask a streamer about it next time you're in their chat. And that's what happens. It's literally what's been happening for the past 3 or 4 months. So that's just my take. That's why I feel like, A, you shouldn't even remove the names to begin with, because then that just invalidates the entire purpose of speedrun.com. And B, if you do keep the names. Don't put anonymous on there, because then you're just highlighting the whole event for years to come. And no one's ever going to be able to move on from it happening, ever. It's just going to continually be a problem. You could remove them from the Discords. You can remove them from the subreddits. And everyone will be happy and everyone will be able to move on. The person who was affected, unfortunately, is going to have to find real ways to heal. And it's not easy, trust me. It's not easy to find real ways to heal when all you want to do is destroy the person who hurt you. It's not easy to move on from it, but it is a very, very important part of healing. I had something else I was going to say, but I forgot. But that's the reason why I don't submit to speedrun.com anymore. Again, if another website were to come up and someone were to make it solely for the purposes of historical records, not as flashy looking as speedrun.com, literally just, even if it was just like, if it looked like a Google Sheets with names for all the different games, like, I would be down, because it would be fulfilling the actual role of speedrun record upkeeping. You know, the whole purpose of speedrun record upkeeping is to have something there for people to compare their times on and see a historical record of the times progressively going down. If those times aren't accurate, if there's an asterisk next to the time saying, oh, by the way, this isn't real, there are other times that we're not showing you, what's the point of it? If someone were to come up with something that didn't have that asterisk, like speedrun.com now does, then I would totally submit. But again, me recognizing that things can change in the Breath of the Wild community, which is fantastic right now as it is, but things can change for the worse, I'm choosing to not associate with it, which is my right. Again, if people want to be children about it and say, oh, well, you don't technically have record then, you don't technically have that time because some guy didn't verify your run, you verify it. It's on a YouTube link, go verify it. If you can find something wrong with it, cool, fantastic, tell me. Otherwise, leave me alone. That's my time. If you want to prove it wrong, prove it wrong. I've given you, it's the burden lies on me to prove that my run is legit. My video is proof that my run is legit. If you have something that can prove that my run is not legit, then bring it forward. But I have done my part. I shouldn't have to go to a specific website, which, by the way, speedrun.com is not the only speedrunning website out there that has times on it. There's like 6 or 7 of them. But I shouldn't have to submit to one of these websites to prove that I did a run. I did a run. I have video evidence of it. You want to find it? Cool. It is publicly available if you want to see it. Otherwise, you can suck a bag of dicks. That's my rant on speedrun.com. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. What are the topics you want me to rant on? Let me know if you agree or disagree with what I said. Be sure to give me a like and subscribe. And thanks.